we drafted up yesterday are correct. It is you that are wrong, you know? Is it us that's wrong? No.
No.
It's the children.
It's the meta.
Yo, Crapper, what do you know about Bard anyway, hey? You know?
Well, actually, I don't know anything about Bard in competitive. I dwell the pits of mastery, 0 points, so... Sadly, I don't know anything.
Most of the time you dwell on the pit, but sometimes you make it out. Of course, Talia remaining the consistent ban. Sivir once again on the table. H2K.
I'm going to predict the Rek'Sai lock in here for H2K. Splyce usually...
Can we get the Sivir maybe?
Sivir Gnar maybe?
Sivir Gnar is what they
maybe
love.
a Tahm Kench. Tahm Kench.
Nah, they're bringing Sexy back. It's got to be Taric. We're giving a...
I think a Taric would be pretty good here.
Nah. Tahm Kench Lucian, I think, is what the bot lane is going to be this time. I don't know, man. So
Thing is, though, because bear in mind how strong Splyce's team fighting were, and Taric is really anti-team fight. And so that could be a good alternative when you look at what Tahm Kench actually provides against the Splyce comp, because he really didn't add that much value. And when we think about peel for the Ashe, I would argue that the Taric would have offered more value in the game before, because that ultimate would have bought so much more time up against the Fed Gnar.
Yeah, or, you know, Vander could press W and eat him up when Gnar is jumping on him. But no, yes, the ultimate is really strong against Gnar as a champion. I think not just for single Ashe, just for the entire team to negate the ultimate. I think you're right on the money here. This actually could be an even smarter adaptation. Get the range support, you know? Just win bot lane, 2v2.
Interesting. I mean, we saw last game, even with
that's what I'm talking about.
Lane advantage, that Forgiven was still keeping up. Forgiven was still getting leads in CS, and this time around the ball is in his court. And if he and Vander can step two, they may be able to crush this bottom lane.
So now we have to see what else Mikyx has up his sleeve, because going back to the Tahm Kench, I mean, it's a possibility, but it's a risk, because you're voluntarily saying that you're going to give up the 2 versus 2 against the range support.
I think it's time. Whip out the Soraka.
It could be time.
But
I would wish that.
Soraka would actually be a good pick here, but I don't think he plays it. He's just going to go Tahm Kench.
Not a possibility, the Nami.
No. Nami into that lane, you on stage for game 5? No. You hear mental booms when you get caught once, and then you feed for the rest of the game.
Well, Forgiven could misplace his mouse and walk into a bubble crap.
Forgiven's going to get caught by a bubble.
Looks like Trashy's going to change up his playstyle. Go for the Gragas once. Something different, perhaps, that we see from him.
It's like we told them there are only 16 legal champions in League of Legends. We did not tell them that.
Yeah.
They have brought this on themselves. And, of course, the final rotation in the final game coming out for H2K. Last chance to adapt.
This may be the least diverse pick ban in a 5-game series I've ever seen. I don't think there's actually, statistically speaking, like an important playoff game with less picks being played overall.
Huh. It's interesting that you point that out, because I think the only variation has been in the 80 carry slot. And the Malzahar, the Malzahar.
A couple of like the Gangplank in.
There's been like 4 top laners, 3 mid laners. I feel there's been 3 supports. There's been 4? 4
supports.
4 supports by now.
Interesting. Of
2
course,
junglers.
H2K rounding out their composition. 2 junglers.
I mean, this game 5 is literally going to be, okay, H2K thought that they played their comp wrong in game 4. Splyce think we found a composition that can do it for us.
Major difference here, bot lane though. Lucian Karma has a way different like pressure on Sivir.
That is very true. Especially when we consider game 1 when Jankos went for that very early gank. Another possibility here once more for the Tahm Kench. Level 2, another opportunity for him to set that one up.
But now without the Ashe, without the Tahm Kench, do you feel like there is the lack of CC on H2K? Is that going to be an issue for them? Because there's really not a whole lot of engage options here for the side of H2K.
They're playing a scaling comp, so if they go even to late game, all they need to do is like Mantra E. The entire turbo lineup speeds up. That gets negated by Sivir on the hunt, but they will have the late game power. It all depends on
that's for sure.
If this Lucian can beat out the Sivir in lane. Remember, Kobbe was down last game too, but he got 3 kills in an early scuffle, and that actually kept him in the game. And then Wunder started carrying.
And then kept carrying.
And kept carrying.
Wunder, of course.
I wonder if he's tired, you know?
Put on the big backpack last game. Have to see if it's going to be him this time around, or someone else is going to pick up the mantle, or if H2K are going to find a way to come back.
I was reading Twitter and Sven, because he couldn't be here despite it, because his casting career was over, but he called Trashy and Wunder the Danish Hooney and Rainover. And I
like it.
Weirdly accurate.
Moving in, of course, your last chance, ladies and gentlemen. Head on over to Twitter at LoL Esports. H2K win or Sply win. Because it's game 5. And there's a spot in the finals on the line, and only one of these teams can make it. You're making it to Krakow either way, but the difference between third and fourth.
It's whether you're flying coach or business class. Just kidding, they're all flying coach.
Ain't got that kind
Just
of
kidding
money.
again, not flying. They have to row there. But something that you mentioned earlier on, Crepo, that I want to bring up is it's fatigue, because it's now game 5. Splyce, they went to a game 5 against Giants when they were in relegation last split. So it's not that they are unfamiliar with this setup, but H2K, they've only experienced 0-3 defeats. Now, obviously, but we are approaching that point where, regardless of how much experience you have, fatigue is something that will strike you regardless. You know,
Yeah.
it's even the most veteran players get tired, and so that you do have to wonder how that will affect your play, especially when the pressure is so big.
And historically, when we look back at H2K's longer series against Origin last season, a team that didn't show anything in the regular season showed up and was able to crush them out in a brutal series. So we have to wonder, H2K, they're so close to getting farther in the playoffs than they ever have. They just need one more win, but can they get it? Is this the comp that's going to do it for them? Pause now over as we get back into game 5.
So in terms of the lane matchups, funnily enough, we've seen them throughout this series.
It's actually a really good start. They get double poke here on Kobbe, who has to base. And they have the ward on the camp, which means Vander can easy solo stop. I wonder if Lucian's going to go here for the freeze. So it's like Mikyx can't... There's so many layers to this. Like, Mikyx can't walk into the bush right now. Forgiven, you want to influence the lane the best you can. You want to push, but you want to deny creeps at the same time. So what he could do is pull the wave and keep camera on bot lane to actually track that. And see if he freezes it for just one creep. And then pushes back out. Or if he goes for the classic insta-shove. Yeah, that's what he's doing here. Pulling the creeps. They're all going to focus on one single minion here. And now they can prep the range CS if they want to, because they will always have push advantage. Double range can actually essentially freeze, and this may be a really rough start here. Let's look at it. Denial of CS. Forgiven is basically just putting the minions low enough that he can always guarantee himself the push, but they can poke out Mikyx.
And each and every one of these games has started with Mikyx and Kobbe taking control of the bottom lane, but this time Forgiven and Vander are on point. The level 1 finally in their favor. It's a good look for them thus far.
He actually doesn't like playing on the edge of freezing. Forgiven always like pushes a little bit more than necessary, but he's so good at resting on the tower. That's where he gets the payoff then. Look at it. Vander poking, like Mikyx having a hard time. Every CS here is challenged. Rough time so far for the Splyce bot lane.
So while we're focusing on the bottom side of the map, the top lane matchup just as aggressive as it has been. Wunder continuing to trade with Odo, threatening these hyper procs consistently.
While Wunder does have the range advantage early on, he can gradually force Odo out of lane, but it's still very much in the early game. You can play defensively enough on the gangplank that it's not going to hurt you that much.
Yeah,
Look
at this action. So intense.
There's just so much focus in their eyes. Compared to Ryu, who's actually lying back in his seat, but the rest of the players aren't. He's relaxed.
We talked about the pressure of best of 5. Ryu not feeling it. Is feeling pretty comfortable in this mid lane matchup, though. 17-8, the current farm differential, of course. As the wave crashes, Malzahar will pick some back up.
We see a little bit of the drawback. Ooh, Spellsfield missed on Pearson White. Very hard to do. That's always something you want to see here. We're about to see the drawback from the early over push, meaning that H2K and Splyce stay equal, but then like all it takes is like one good Q connecting, and eventually Kobbe is going to be in trouble. He still has his potion though, so I think Splyce is dealing fairly well despite the abysmal start. H2K could have punished harder on bot, but enough about that lane.
Shifting back, looking at the jungle matchup. Trashy with a small lead, but Jankos, we're going to have to see where he applies his pressure first as he picks up his red buff and may look to start ganking.
I think that's really important, Sifa, because something that's been integral throughout this series is whether or not Trashy or Jankos can get that early game. And when we look back and we think game 1, it was Jankos setting up that play in the bottom lane, which resulted in him then rotating up and getting so much pressure down onto Wunder. And then in game 4, Trashy was the one to get that early gank. And now we see Trashy hanging around the top lane. He wants to do the same, but Jankos
not messing up the timing this time. Goes in. Game 5, each of those moments matters, but Sencux just going to flash to safety.
So interesting that mid is actually the focus for Jankos in this game. He trades flash for flash, but it does mean that he can look to rotate round once again. Sencux has to be so mindful of being on auto push mode on this Malzahar now, because if he ever so slightly overextends, it is so easy for Jankos to just rotate back round and get that first kill. And on a Vladimir against a Malzahar, a matchup which should be very farm heavy can actually very quickly snowball in either way if either mid laner can get a small advantage.
Well, Ryu definitely has more than a small advantage, 36-17.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the pressure from the fact that Jankos can not only show up, but he can enter the lane in multiple tunnel paths, which is why Sencux just really doesn't want an AFK push. And you'd never get the bonus of Malefic Visions bouncing and giving you sustain.
Yeah.
That is just what draws you back, and then he has to yield CS, and he almost has this pseudo-random Malefic Visions bouncing around too. I wonder if Forgiving goes for the same build here with the Essence Weaver, or is he going for the traditional Armor Pen build?
In theory, the early game power may balance out some of the more scaling picks on this lineup, but we know how Forgiven likes to play. Loves the crits, loves that mid to late game damage.
This is also actually hurting the back timing of Sencux too, because bear in mind that in the previous game, he was able to go back and get himself a Doran's Ring, boots, and health pot. He is going to be able to do the same, and a pink wall on top of that. So perhaps not as bad as it was, but now Trashy looking for a roam down bot.
Yeah, but doesn't get the added benefit of doing it on like level 4 or 5, where you then continuously get to push in Ryu before Ryu bases.
Yeah.
He's basically matching teleport to give Ryu a base. Trashy's just gonna show up, a little bit pressure here. Matched by Jankos. Things aren't looking that abysmal though here for his bot lane. He did a decent job of staying equal.
Yeah, the bottom lane, but I mean, I just keep bringing it back to the mid lane, 28-50. Ryu, I mean, not perfect CSing, but keeping up with Forgiven, and that's the standard, right?
I mean, he did swing it around last game too. About 10 CS swing once he hit level 6 and he had that pressure.
Yeah.
Becomes increasingly easier to play the Mauser too, because just base damage of E goes up. Not as much of a feel. You get blue buff too, eventually.
Passive comes up as well, so maybe this is the breaking point. Maybe this is where Sencux can start to come back. Ryu, of course, has not backed yet, so...
This is actually really good for Sencux, because you have to backtrack to the early jungle pathing, and where if we remember back throughout this series, Jankos, well, we praised Trashy a lot for reading Jankos' jungle path, where Trashy went for the invade on the enemy blue because he expected his own blue to be taken, and Jankos decided not to do that. He forgoed his blue, looked for an early setup in the bottom lane, but because of the hard push, he wasn't really able to get anything. He was just there in the event that Trashy tried to provide some additional pressure, but Trashy, he was going over and stealing away Jankos' blue, which meant that he was freely able to give his own to Sencux, which is going to mitigate a lot of the damage that Ryu is able to do down in the mid lane, because now he can just spam his abilities, kill away from him.
Yeah, this 3-buffing of Trashy leaves him level 6 before Jankos hits it, so he actually has pressure here. Not going to go for body snap flash. Yeah, it's really smart. Just force the flash here. He could actually go for the E into fake out, but I think he used it to getting over the wall, and it likely was on cooldown. Usually you see just Gragas, body slamming forward, faking the body slam flash. Yeah, and of course, Bjergsen has got a room for the 4 Danish guys.
You can hear the Danish fans in the audience going wild too as the Bjergsen tweet comes up. It's like having an extra desk or guest on the analyst desk. We get his predictions too.
The more Danes, the better, as Deficio would say.
Who would say that?
Oh, Deficio. Wunder, not quite as dominant as he once was. Has a CS lead, but Gangplank farming quite comfortably. And you can see the difference without Trashy making massive impacts. But it's still early in the game. Still a lot of time for these teams to change the strategy, to pressure out.
So Jankos actually did a really interesting thing in the bottom lane where Splyce pushed out the wave. Jankos was in a position where he actually caught the whole wave, and he set up a freeze to enable Forgiven and Vander to catch an entire wave that they likely would have missed. And that's going to enable them to then rotate around to the Baron. That minion wave is then also going to be pushed underneath the turret, and it's just going to do so much for the tempo, because now Splyce have no way to respond to this dragon.
They also canceled their base. It's really hard to see, but you can see both Sivir and Tahm Kench start their base at the same time. Yet Sivir finished the base 4 seconds later, which means the Prey Seeker came out, hit her, she had to move behind the Tahm Kench. And cancel base, which means that Vander Forgiven got more time to go for Dragon uncontested, and this is one of those things where teams are learning, instead of putting chip damage on the turret and taking half HP, instead they take something more valuable short term, as long as the backlash isn't big enough, and this comes as a snowball effect from having a lane that can control the wave as well as Lucian Karma. And they basically get a free early dragon.
Yeah, and a great free dragon to have, of course, Infernal Drake. We've seen Ocean and Cloud. The first time we're seeing Infernal come out first. Not only that, it benefits H2K immensely. Gangplank going to build that AD, Tiamat from Rek'Sai, Vladimir and Lucian as well. A perfect team to take advantage of that scaling buff. And the next Drake going to be an Infernal as well. So if H2K continue to take small advantages, things may look to move in their favor.
Really good calling there. That's what you have to do in this matchup. Lucian power spike on 6. Again, SSU build here altogether. Doesn't like Ghostblade.
Going for more of a scaling itemization. I mean, it matches this comp when you have the Vladimir and the Gangplank, but when you also consider the Trinity Force spike that you have in the mid game, Forgiven could very well have gone for that Black Cleaver Ghostblade itemization, but decided against it. Clearly not something that he prefers.
I mean, it almost enables Odoamne even more, and just like a Ghostblade spike, if you find Sivir anywhere, she's dead. Tap into culling is game over here, and Sencux has stabilized a little bit in terms of positioning. He's looking to bait in Ryu.
Trying to bait him in. Trashy on the way in. Ryu locked up. Gangplank Cannon Barrage coming out. Flash out from Sencux. Trashy suddenly in trouble. Knocks Jankos back under the tower, but no Malefic Visions. No more damage abilities left for Sencux. Out of mana as well, and H2K walk away.
Actually, a lot of really nice plays there because even though the Gangplank ultimate came down, Sencux using his ult as Jankos now gets caught out.
Oh, he's going to have to hop over the wall.
Trashy is actually so calculated in his approach. The fact that he hasn't expended Flash in any of these ganks means he's very comfortable with the pressure that a Game 5 in the best of 5 brings him, and he's actually dominating this matchup against Jankos, essentially 3-buffing him earlier, handing off his move to his mid laner, so he is the saving grace for Splyce this game, looking to stabilize.
And of course, Trashy, the most veteran player on this lineup in terms of best of 5s, and his time on enemy playing multiple promotion tournaments, and the pressure there, of course, is different, but the difference between looking for finals and looking to get knocked out of the LCS, clearly Trashy is no stranger to the pressure here.
Speaking of pressure, just look at the vision pressure in favor of Splyce. And as I say that, their wards just disappear. But you can already see a bit of deep vision coming out from Trashy because while, once again, he hasn't been focused on ganking, this isn't typically his playstyle, he has been doing what he can to get control over Jankos' jungle because he wants to know where Jankos is looking to gank as we see Tahm Kench come for a play up top.
Here comes the Tahm Kench. As you said, moving forward, Odoamne potentially in trouble, but just going to back off the tower here.
Yeah, Kobbe holding on the hunt as well. Splyce is surprisingly controlled here. In all these situations, you expect teams that are under pressure of making it to a finals to really start using abilities quicker. But this swap up here, completely surprised. Now it's a race though. How low is that bot lane turret? Can Trashy stop it from going down?
Trashy is on the way, as is Sencux, who is going to get it in the end. Trashy pushes them off. Turret first blood, dropping for Splyce.
And this is usually where H2K in the series have struck back by going mid and putting turret pressure there. Can Splyce back that off? Because then they definitely went out on this straight here. Good gold swing, good rotation by Splyce.
Certainly was. Just very impressive response, taking advantage of the Tahm Kench ultimate. And funnily enough, this was something that we critiqued them for earlier in this series, but it seems that they have adapted. They've realized how to properly optimize this setup that they have, and they just, with the Tahm Kench, create such a massive time advantage over their opponents that they're able to very quickly get that first blood tower gold, and now they're already rotating back down to the bottom half of the map. Yeah. Really intelligent play from Splyce.
Absolutely, but unfortunately it is not enough to balance out the gold differential. H2K still with the lead, and it is because of that mid lane 120 CS to 86, a massive difference here.
So even after getting that early blue buff, unfortunately for Sencux, he wasn't quite able to close the gap. But we also have to consider how many ganks Jankos has actually put down into the mid lane and try to exert what pressure he can.
Ryu is kind of faking that Jankos is around, because if he does that with the knowledge of Jankos not being there, like if Splyce knows that Jankos is not there, Ryu's going to eat a full body slam in his face, but he's just acting so confident, and that's the difference too on stage. Sometimes you gotta fake it till your jungler makes it, you know?
You can see it in his face right now. He's the face of a fighter.
Yeah.
Leans back in his chair consistently. Calm, cool, collected.
Yeah, I will murder you.
Yeah. But that's sometimes really annoying. Once you get to the stage, you play against players, and then you watch the replay and you realize that this pressure that they were exerting, you know, playing as if the jungler was there, and he's on the other side of the map, and you just feel like you got played.
How are you supposed to know? Can you take the risk on the mental game to get aggressive when you don't have the knowledge?
Yeah, you just played yourself.
You are your own greatest enemy.
Nah, probably still be the enemy jungler.
Yeah, probably mostly still that guy.
But
Right, maybe it's just me then.
I'm a close second, you know. Alright, River Control coming out for Splyce here, already indicating that they're setting up for second Infernal. Do not want to give this over to a scaling H2K.
Makes a lot of sense. You can't afford to give that many Infernal Drakes, and this is actually the only game where we've seen so many. Is we see a setup play down bot, Gangplank ult
comes out, calling on the backside as well. Mikyx going to eat up the 80 carry, utilizing the on the hunt, but Jankos is here. Trashy trying to back him up. Who's going to come out on top in the fight? Knocks Jankos into the team, moving forward for more. Wunder out of nowhere, but Odo's here as well, and no one has dropped. Wunder grabs first blood. H2K, are they going to be able to back off? Because Sencux is coming in, but so is Ryu. The fight, will it continue? Ryu backing
Wunder
off.
stole blue buff and then was about to run out of Mega Gnar, but just at the very end still finds a wall.
Moving forward. Will we see the re-engage? Sencux, passive proc, he has to flash out to safety. Ryu making his way into the back line. Odo, he does damage, but will it be enough? Nope, says the Tomkench. Quick devour, quick out to safety.
The thing is here for H2K, they force a fight, but they've actually bought enough time for Jankos to now come back in. And because the flash is down for Sencux, H2K feel confident enough to go for this dragon.
Gives us out of mana though. It's a lot of resources lost here. Look at the smite steal.
Who's going to get it? Move forward, Trashy's ready, leaps in, he gets it! Ryu locked down, will he be knocked out? Splyce looking to gain control of the fight. Wunder on the backside, the MVP, but H2K know their target, they turn. But Wunder slowing the escape. My God, the frozen mallet is simply too much. Jankos pushing in for more, and they're gonna have to back off.
Great steal coming out from Trashy, doing what he needs to do. He sacrifices his life, but that was definitely worth as Splyce looked to continue their aggression.
What a big swing here. Red buff being contested here. Wunder has taken away blue buff from H2K too. He took away the red just now as well here. Continuous pressure here. Unless Jankos stole that over the wall. No, because his smite was down. Jankos has only gotten like one buff this entire game, I believe.
That's a rough life. As we look through this extended fight here, you can see Splyce barely managing to pull this one out.
The setup itself from H2K was really good. The play, there was no real issues with it, except for the fact that they overcommit at this point. And Wunder gets the TP.
Still gets them. Anyways, here's Wunder wall. Puts them in. Even though they flashed, he got them on the back end. That's dirty.
Yeah. Fat hitbox for Wunder. Everything he wanted in that exchange. A sad state for Forgiven.
And this was actually pretty good for H2K trying to re-engage the fight because they know Wunder is not really in a position to continue contesting, whereas Ryu still has everything up. So they feel confident enough to continue pressing their lead. But then, as you mentioned, Forgiven, he has no mana. It's difficult for him to continue trading, and he actually takes a fair amount of damage from the dragon itself. Then when they get forced into this choke point, just ever so slight miss-smite coming out from Jankos. The dragon's going to go down to about 70 HP, Trashy's going to come in and get the smite, and then because Wunder's on the backline, H2K don't feel confident enough to commit onto the 3. They try to collapse onto the 1, but then the good kiting from Wunder enables them to get a kill.
There was a layer to that actually being a good smite. If you look at Jankos and you know that dragon still has flash, what you're going to expect there is the body slam is not reaching the dragon. Unless, on that frame where he smote, actually that would be the exact instance where Trashy would have body slam flashed. And if he body slam flashes for smite, he has about 880 damage right there. So technically, it was, trying to go for outplay.
Oh, knocked back, knocked into the wall. Out comes the wombo combo, and down goes Odoamne. Wunder on a killing spree.
And that's the flash that Trashy saved in that dragon play.
Trashy showing up. Jankos may have been the first blood king, but Trashy is bringing it back. He is making a name for himself in this series.
And look at Wunder, 3-0-0. 50 CS above his lane opponent, and this is looking like game 4 all over again as Ryu goes onto the bottom lane of Splyce.
Tomkench says no, they're going to have to back off. H2K desperate to make a move here. Splyce continue to apply pressure across the map. They are unrelenting.
Yeah, the Danish Hoonian reign over carrying it home. What an impressive performance here. I'm wondering what was last game, but right now it's Trashy for me. The fact that he influences 4 different parts of the map, like he went top once, bot again, held the tower, and he still had his flash after all of that. To not use it on the dragon, can't say if it's the right play rather, but he went just for a 50-50 smite steal as opposed to using his body slam flash to really solidify that smite. And then he has it available for the gank later on and really finds Odoamne.
Working out so well. Getting everything. It's having your cake and eating it too. Gets it without the guaranteed steal. But at the end of the day, the goal is still so even. Only a small lead for Splyce. H2K continuing to farm incredibly well. Continuing to extend advantages in the mid lane as well as the bottom lane.
As exactly as you say it, for this mid lane still holds a very solid advantage over Sencux, because you can see needlessly large rod already done for Ryu. He's working towards that Rylite. He's going to hit that 2-item spike at around the 22-minute mark, which is fantastic for this Vladimir. Whereas Sencux, he's just so far behind in terms of itemization. The bright side for Splyce is that when you compare Wunder to Odoamne, Wunder is so far ahead. And really, when you consider the setup moving forward for Splyce, I think they can be pretty happy with where Wunder is right now.
Yeah, the major piece here on the chessboard is Wunder, and he has all the gold funneled into him, and that's going to make it so that Splyce seemingly somewhat small advantage is actually much larger, or it feels much larger to H2K. But Sencux is just putting silent pressure. They even pulled away Odoamne from that matchup.
Yeah, interesting shift here. No longer confident in the Gangplank's ability to 1v1. 0-1-1 the score for Odoamne. He's going to do a lot of damage in that late game, but it's going to take a lot of time, and I don't think Splyce are going to give it to him. They're starting to pressure in the mid lane and Forgiven. Those once aggressive Colings now reduced to clearing waves.
The thing is, I actually quite like this from H2K, because bear in mind, Wunder, he doesn't have any sort of magic resistance. We saw in Game 4 what Ryu was able to do to him if he gets caught unaware. And so Ryu also is very unlikely to die that, because he has the pool, he has a lot of sustain with his Crimson Rush and his ultimate, so he can just disengage away from Wunder if he gets into any tricky situations. As Ryu is going to secure himself the blue, but you're going to see now he's just going to run away from Wunder. But he is forced to use the Ghost, as we see action in the bottom.
Jankos caught out, lockdown, Cannon Barrage comes in, but it's not enough. Staring contest from Malzahar, and down goes the jungler for H2K. Nice quick pickup.
And this is why Malzahar is on the side lane and not in mid, because it allows Splyce to play 1-3-1 and use that Tahm Kench ultimate to rotate to side lanes to either make picks or put immediate turret pressure much faster than H2K can react to. And the continuous buff pressure is just unrelenting here. Jankos slowly falling behind in experience. He must be, because every single buff is getting contested.
We also have to give praise to Trashy for that ultimate interrupting the burrow coming out from Jankos to avoid him getting away, and then the immediate follow-up from the rest of Splyce. Just a very small play that resulted in them getting a kill.
Watch this again here. Yeah, look, Sivir Tahm Kench peel off. Body slam. Can you get him? Ooh, that's, oh, it's one of those ults. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. When he's in the middle of the wall, he gets interrupted, and then the game has to decide which side is he closer to, and so he gets forced to the side of Spot.
Yeah, so it's not a bug. Displacement puts you, stops your effect, and then you slide out wherever side you're closest to.
Yep.
Difference of milliseconds there to save Jankos' life. Close play coming from Splyce, but once again, it's airing in their favor here in Game 5. The 2K gold lead now in their favor, finally building something substantial.
Yeah, I can feel the hype. The entire desk is shaking. Play-by-play is wobbling his knees.
Shaking. Ready.
Ready.
It's probably going to be some super, like, not even crazy ultimate just for harass. And I'm going to lose it, Krepo, and I need you to be ready for that.
The Culling comes out! Kills minions!
3 creeps!
He eats the Sculler Crab. I say, Mickey, hang on, buddy.
Oh, that's not what you want. Jankos looking to eat Mickey here. He's in trouble, but oh, Kobbe maybe looking for the 1v1. Action traded back and forth. Mickey potentially in trouble. Sencux there to back him up if he needs it.
Teleport's available.
Malzahar. Jankos in trouble. Knocked back into the team. Mickey maybe looking for the Devour. You joked about it. No Scuttle Crab eating. But Jankos going to drop, and Baron turns tail on H2K and sides with Splyce.
That's karma right there. H2K relied on the buddy system earlier, and Splyce go and do the same thing once again in Game 5. Really impressive stuff. They get another kill onto Jankos, and meanwhile, Wunder, he's still pushing down in the bottom lane.
Odoamne has to be careful. Well, it's only gotten stronger. Ryu, though, suddenly feeling pretty confident. In comes the Cannon Barrage from Gangplank. Ryu looking to go in. Is it going to get blocked? No. He gets stunned up under the tower. Pull out, but will it be enough? Mickey has to flash to safety. Speed out from Ryu. Ghost and Flash used.
Really aggressive plays coming out from Ryu. And speaking of aggression, Wunder tries it, but not quite going to be able to land it. The Ghost play coming out from Odoamne was enough to get him away, but Wunder's still going to net himself a turret.
Zoning ultimate, that's in the tower.
Call that one the pocket sand.
You're supposed to throw the sand in their face.
Yeah, well, he missed, all right? It was not good in the sense of the pocket sand ultimate.
If only you had influenceable terrain in the league.
One day.
He was digging a hole to bury Odo. That's what he was doing. You see this right here? This is going to be Yusu.
Little mistake, but not going to cost Wunder anything in the end, as Gangplank is still forced back. Tower still falls on the bottom side. Splyce building the gold lead up. Just moments ago it was 2K, now extending it to 3.
And again, we see how Ryu going for early QSS here. It begs the question, is it worth it for Vladimir? Due to the way this game is going. Because yes, Malzahar like has a counter, but how often is Sencux really going to be influenced by Ryu before he can actually just pull in, you know? Should Ryu have gone for an earlier spike, maybe just be tankier and then rely on somebody stopping the Nethergrass channel?
So the thing is here, for a Malzahar, typically you just want to use your ultimate on the front line that's trying to dive onto your back line, because Sivir is going to be your main damage dealer that you need to try and protect. And so Ryu's goal is going to be to try and dive onto the back line by being that front line. And so he's largely going for the QSS just to mitigate as much of the damage so that he's not being stymied from getting on top of this AD carry and dealing as much damage as he can.
That is true, but he has been biding his time, and every time he got access to Kobbe and Mikyx, he's been like within an inch of killing them. Maybe this investment in QSS for him to land the killing blow.
But at the same time, looking back at Champion Select, almost no CC on this H2K lineup. Jankos and Vander, the only members who can interrupt the Malzahar, all of them. The Karma Snare, they come in fast enough, actually won't even interrupt the Lord. So, limited options to stop Sencux from running through the team. Vladimir and Gangplank relatively safe now, but Forgiven's going to need a defensive option soon.
Kobbe eating damage. Pop ulti. Look at the pressure. Oh, that means no GP ulti in about 1v1. Wunder's going to be happy about that one.
Oh, I think he definitely is.
Hell, you don't even need to look, but you see the
you see the little pictures? You see the big Gnar picture running at the pirate with gun? Yeah, he's winning.
Remember that hole I dug? It's waiting for you.
He's going to have to carry that corpse a whole while.
He's so little. How do you expect him to carry that?
I don't know. He's going to put one of his weapons down, or maybe he'll put him in the hood of his cloak.
Very
interesting.
Yeah,
it's true.
Clearly, that's true. Being find out.
The shizzle.
The shizzle, yo.
Sencux pushing in for more. Tower going to drop for Splyce. Their gold lead continues to grow. Things are looking so rough for H2K, a team with a struggling regular season, showing up in playoffs. But now in one final game, seem to be falling apart.
Now just really good pressure here from Splyce. A couple of key moments though. The Dragon Steal from Trashy turned into a tower. The fact that H2K went for that. No flash here on Odoamne. And look at it. They're baiting him in at this point. Baiting on the ward.
I feel as though H2K were very reliant on Jankos getting that early aggression up, because if we look at the bottom lane, H2K had the advantage. Ryu, thanks to the number of ganks that Jankos had also built himself up a pretty sizable lead. And all Jankos needed to do was pressure top half of the map. Get Odoamne ahead in this 1v1. If he had done that, this game would look entirely different. But when we look at the early game, there was little to no pressure coming out from Jankos in trying to enable Odoamne to succeed. And we have to wonder whether or not this was a result of Jankos and his diverse jungle pathing. Bear in mind, he ended up losing a lot of buffs in the early game, and perhaps it was the pressure just getting to Jankos. The idea of being in that final for the first time, maybe just getting to him in this final game.
Or it is clear that the drafting just isn't working out. These 5 games on Gnar, if you look at the impact some of these repeat champions have had in the series, I think Wunder is making a case for having the highest impact on a single champion. And that begs the question, should have been banned out. They're waiting.
Patience, 2 pick boards. Trashy stepping forward, throws it in.
And it spreads
Smart.
to Ryu.
Yeah.
I wonder if he saw that.
Well, in they go. Trashy potentially in trouble. Decent amount of damage. Trying to slow them down. Knocks them back. Good ult from Trashy to disengage there.
I'm really liking the way he reacts with explosive cast 2 tunnels. It's almost as if he has played that matchup a couple of times. One would say at
Give
least
or
4. Today.
Smart
If this guy goes home and plays a solo queue game and he gets one more Gragas into the Rek'Sai, I think he's just gonna alt F4. Like, I'm done.
I'm done. Ban me, Riot. I'm tired of this matchup.
I mean, out of Champs Select, you know? Usually you can leave the game before it starts.
I didn't know that. There's no way that doesn't make any sense. Splyce, though, moving on to the Baron. Seeing how important this buff would be for breaking Final towers here. Only the mid-tier 2 left standing. Inhibitors potentially on the mind of Splyce as they set this up. But H2K moving in.
Yeah, and they can do it pretty sustained here with the Voidlings.
But bear in mind, the Gangplank ultimate is still up for Odo if H2K want to try and force this.
Oh, Jankos flashes in. Will he be able to steal it? Knockback from Trashy. 3K health
Forgiven.
left. They're looking for more. Sencux takes down Forgiven. They want to keep the fight going. Ryu, the only man left standing. But down goes Kobbe. Trashy surely next to fall. The double kill for Ryu. Wunder trying to swing the fight in his team's favor, but it's too little, too late. Ryu came to play. Triple kill for the mid laner. He wants to make it a quadra, but shut down from Wunder.
Ryu making that early game advantage that he had accrued to swing the fight in their favor, and now Wunder, he's just going to get out, but H2K are going to get the Baron.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're going to get the Baron because this is exactly what we were talking about last game. Splyce is being horrible at judging how to do this Baron buff. They had 1v1 outpush on the bottom lane. They immediately started Baron without baiting. They had such good catch. All they had to do was Tahm Kench ulti on a lone face checker or turn it around with the Sivir ulti and rush. Right now they're trying to get
low.
Ryu.
3K health left. They're not going to have a jungler, but they got Wunder. He's here. Frozen Mallet up. Vander's going to fall. H2K have overstayed their welcome. This is Wunder's house, and he's not afraid to kick you out if you give him the chance. Jankos with some fancy work on the tunnels, but Meganar's on the way. Brick goes wide. He's going to back off.
This is my hood, fam. Get out of here. This is going to be a Baron going over to Splyce, and this is such a massive advantage for them.
Wow. It all meant that single Praise Seeker just barely not connecting on Wunder meant that Tahm Kench and Nar base ran back with home guards, and then Tahm Kench ulted straight into the pit here. What an incredible series of events that eventually lead to Splyce getting Baron and taking down Jankos.
Wunder on the front line. Forgiven flashes to safety. The barrel carries him home, but Splyce will be there soon enough. The Baron buff backing up this push.
If we just think back to that play, Wunder, if he had just not gotten away on that slither of health, this would have been a Baron for H2K.
So this inherently is a bad play because they're grouping up into GP ulti. Like if Jankos connects a knockup on the Kobbe, he's dead. But look, Kobbe flashes in to finish Forgiven and gets then devoured by Mikyx. Really well played. Ryu is just in perfect position, and then Wunder, the way he gets out there, look at him. Like after he backs off and Ryu gets the kill here, he's gonna hop out over somebody when he's mini Gnar. Like who do you get to? He gets a jump on Ryu actually. Ryu saves Wunder and
Gets
goes
the
down.
shutdown. Hyper speed boost proc. Sidestep on the Karma Q. Looking fresh.
And whoop.
Eats him up.
If Jankos had just stayed buried as well, he could have had his Praise Seeker up to net that kill. So many minor things.
Like that is the difference between this game being won by H2K potentially or lost.
All right.
Look, yes,
Cloud Drake is the only reason. I'm not kidding. Cloud Drake procs, and Mickey's able to take him to safety. That 25 movement speed is actually everything, and we're going to see Wunder clean up house. But Ryu may be looking to swing it back as we come out of replay. Sencux now set to fall. Colling's on the backside. They're looking for the disengage. Mickey's going to eat him up and carry him to safety. H2K looking for the aggressive plays.
Yeah, Wunder's flanking out left side. Came from top lane. Odoamne's tag, yes, the flash.
Oh, Wunder goes over the wall. He's not hesitating whatsoever. That's so much damage. Wunder is godlike. 7-0-1. And what is a god to a king? Well, Wunder doesn't have to ask. Ryu now set to fall. Double kill coming out. Splyce, what insane performance in this 5th game.
And look at these death timers. Splyce, they have all 5 members. They have a Baron. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Splyce are going to win this series.
Cutting down the towers. They're moving forward. H2K, what can they do moving forward? Splyce, they're taking it out. H2K, not a whole lot of options. 20 seconds counting down. Splyce making it out of spring relegations, making it to 2nd place to pave the road to Krakow. And with one last win over H2K, they qualify for the summer finals.
I can just see how much it means for this Splyce